All right. Dale, why does the oxygen go down in the water when you get a big algae kill? Or you get a big algae bloom?
All of the decomposing bacteria.
Aha! Boom. There you go, brother, you got it. It's not the algae that makes the oxygen go down, it's the decomposing bacteria that eat the algae, that suck down the algae. Good. Once the oxygen is all sucked down, what happens to the pond? What dies?
All the plants and everything.
Plants might make it, but the fish will die for sure. It's just a big fix here. Can you guys remember the three molecules that can make acid rain? How about one of the molecules? What's coming out of your mouth right now? Right now, Elizabeth. Right now! You ham snake!
Carbon.
Carbon dioxide. That's a big one. And starts with an S. It stinks.
Sulfur.
Sulfur.
Acid.
Sulfur dioxide. And the next one's coming out of the tailpipe. Starts with the N. There you go. And this one, oddly enough, is nitrous oxide, but you can combine all these with water, makes carbonic acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid. Out of these three, which one do we not put in the atmosphere as much as we did back in the 70s? One of them comes from burning coal.
Second one.
There you go, buddy. We don't burn as much coal anymore. And what coal we do burn, we put scrubbers in the smokestacks, and the sulfur adheres to the calcium carbonate to make gypsum, so the sulfur dioxide isn't as prevalent anymore. Plus, catalytic converters in cars pull this out of the exhaust. We're still producing a lot of this and quite a bit of this, but not so much of that. So acid rain isn't as big a problem, but what's the average pH in most rainfall? Is it 7, which is neutral? 4 to 6. For rainfall. Yeah, pretty rare to be neutral. Plastic. Does it decompose into an organic component?
No.
No, but it will disintegrate and break down. Where are we now finding this stinking plastic? Yeah, in our water, so it's in our food, so it's in our bodies, so. This plastic's a huge problem, but yeah. Food. And water. Yep. Do you guys know the difference between point source and non-point source? Okay. If that white truck right there in the parking lot was sitting there running, but all the other cars were not running, that white truck would be a point source if there was contamination coming out of it. So usually a point source is like a single factory with a pipe running into the ditch out back. Or a single house with a sewage system that basically just runs into a stream. A non-point source would be a big diffuse area. Like if we identified contamination coming off that parking lot, we really wouldn't have an idea where it came from in that parking lot because there's whatever, 100 cars out there, right? Or if there's contamination coming off 3,000 acres of farmland, we're not real sure where it came off that farmland, we just know it was there somewhere. It's a big, huge area. The Clean Water Act, which we passed, the United States passed, I think in 1972, identified point sources. Previous to 1972, if Elizabeth had a home in Montgomery County, she could run a straight pipe to the stream out back and, there was no law saying she had to have a sewage system. Or if Dalen owned a factory up in Randleman, he could have run a straight pipe out of that back of that factory and run it into the deep river. It's up to him. The 72 water law said, look, you can't do that anymore. If we find you're doing it, the EPA come in and find you. They still haven't gotten one for a non-point source yet, for the big disseminated area. They're working on that, but they haven't got that done. Do you guys know part per million, part per billion, part per trillion? I mean, did you recognize this, or maybe you didn't? If you didn't, that's why I put it up there. No. Part per million would be like this. This blue pen, and if I put a million stinking red pens around it, and there's one of those, 1 part per million, or a billion of these, 1 part per billion, so on and so forth. That's usually what gets identified in terms of pollution. That's how far down it can go. Biphenyls. Biphenyls is what their findings in plastic. Biphenyls are causing a lot of health effects. It's going to be one of the questions I'm going to ask you when we do the next project I'm going to have you guys work on. It's a plastic source. You guys know what coal ash is? It's the residue left after you burn the coal. I mean, right now, they're basically, if you do mountaintop removal, which they're doing, and you take the whole top of the mountain off, and then you dig the coal, and then you go ahead and burn it. They basically just dig a hole and dump all the ash in it. Yeah, exactly. Duke Power's now got to clean up a bunch of this. Do you guys remember when this coal ash dam broke up on the Dan River? It was like 5-6 years ago, and you might not have paid attention. Anyhow, millions of gallons of this crap went flowing out of there. The dam they had on this thing was pretty weak, I guess. Anyhow, they got to take that mountaintop removal. Instead of just burrowing in to get the coal, now they're just taking the whole top of the dumb mountain off. West Virginia's big about that. Makes a heck of a mess. When they take the top of the mountain off, they basically just dump it in the nearby valley. Nice! What's that do to the surrounding streams? Chokes full of dirt, right? I mean, it's a mess. Fracking! You guys know what fracking is? Cool word. Do you feel how hard that tabletop is? There you go. Fracking is basically drilling through shale or slate, which is an organic rock, injecting high pressure water with sand in it, fracturing or fracking the rock so the natural gas or oil can come back out. They made it in, a guy designed it in Texas 20 years ago, maybe. They're supposed to start drilling in North Carolina and Chatham County for fracking this year, I think, but I don't know if they did. They do it in Pennsylvania, North Dakota, South Dakota. High pressure drilling with water and sand to extract natural gas and what? Huh? Okay. That's good enough.